Ole Miss has a bye week, has Vanderbilt tomorrow. I think it's time that we bring Tim Thomas back in and find out exactly what is going on.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back. I am Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. He is Tim Thomas, former Ole Miss basketball player and a legend in my own heart. Played on the 1981 team that went to the NCAA tournament. And me and Tim were just talking before we went on there. There's a very real possibility, Tim, that Ole Miss could end up with Kansas in the NCAA tournament playing in Wichita, Kansas, which is exactly where you went in 81.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? I saw last night that this same Kansas here this year got beat by BYU last night by 34. We beat BYU early in the year. So it happens, man. All these things happen, just like the Mississippi State game this past week.
Yeah, it's a long basketball season, and you can go up and you can go down, and we always question people that have a football mentality when it comes to basketball results just because of the number of the games that are going on. But listen, that Mississippi State game was a difficult game. I mean, it was a situation to where Ole Miss didn't look engaged. They looked complacent. They looked like a team that thought they made the NCAA tournament the Wednesday before. And with Mississippi State coming in, that was just a perfect storm of the worst timing ever.
Yeah, 100%. They got hustled, they got outplayed, and again, they got out-rebounded. And that's what Beard's whole philosophy was, is you already talked about it some this week, accountability. That's what the world needs more of, right? He let those five guys or five starters come into the presser and let them kind of talk about it over a little bit, trying to put a little accountability on them. I think it's probably going to work. Beard's been around. I was watching a Rick Pitino rant the other day talking to his players. He made a few little F-bombs in there. It wasn't real cool to listen to, but the point got across. But Beard knows what he's doing. We've talked about it. It was hard to watch. Very disappointed, frustrating. Malik Dia frustrates me more than anybody, a guy with such talent. No one would seem to be ready to play. Shampadula kind of mentioned it in the press conference. Complacency, thinking too much of oneself. And Beard mentions that what have we done? What have we done, Sean? He mentioned that himself. What have we done that we're so complacent about? But ever since that Kentucky first half that we talked about, me and you, the poetry in motion and all this beautiful stuff, since then, for whatever reason, it's been a mental letdown, and we got to get back to going. I believe we'll have them ready for Vandy in Nashville Saturday.
So Chris Beard is from the Bobby Knight tree, and everybody knows about Bobby Knight. But Bob Weltlich, who you played for, was also from the Bobby Knight tree. And there was a phrase that you used to get in particular moments that Weltlich would put on his own players, and it was called a significant emotional event. And after that Mississippi State game, that phrase has been on my mind more than any other game, because I genuinely think that the Ole Miss basketball team, they faced a little bit of a significant emotional event. But what did Weltlich mean whenever he said that to y'all?
Yeah, he said it a few times here and there, and it kind of stuck in my mind, but I actually felt it more than I heard it. But yeah, I kind of like Beard, I think, because he's from that tree. I have a feeling they had some of those things, practices, really, just hard practices. I don't know if you call them threats or promises or what, but, a lot of physical rebounding, a lot of physical loose ball drills back in the day, a lot of suicides, as they used to call them, a lot of running and a lot of what the Florida song head games, a lot of head games during the week. So I feel like Beard has used it to his benefit. Hopefully that things will be better this week. I feel like they will. They're veterans. They know what's going on. They know what he's talking about. They bought into his culture. I believe this may be a wake-up call that they needed. You hate to get beat, especially by Mississippi State, but it may be a good thing.
Yeah, my thought is if Ole Miss can take this bye week, use the significant emotional event, for Vanderbilt to build that up and get going, because there's some tough games to come. It could precede a nice March level run, because this Ole Miss basketball team, if they get the right matchup, they can go Sweet 16. They can match that. They can do all of the things that they could do before the Mississippi State, after the Mississippi State game. The reality, the weird thing about this, Tim, is the Mississippi State loss, in reality, only has to be just a loss of a basketball game unless Ole Miss makes it be more.
It really, all you might lose is maybe a seeding, maybe it's not a big deal. We're already a lock. Jolyn already says we're a lock. You've talked about it. It's according where we're going to be. We're going to be a 5, 6, 7. That's all good. I feel good about our chances either way. I don't know how we're going to do. Beard's never lost in his coaching career, never lost a first round game. So I like to keep that going and go as far as we can. It all depends on our guys. Malik D, I believe it more than ever that he is the guy that he's the kingpin of this operation. If he'll take the ball inside and make those moves and get fouled, and I think Beard again with Vanderbilt, I think he's going to go back inside again, push that issue, quit throwing up threes from everywhere, shoot 20%. It doesn't work. So I think Dia, he just tells Dia, if you want to play, guys, and also Dre and also Morrell, if you want to play, you're going to take it to the hole most every time, unless you got a wide open three. But, Juju and Sean also, they're all going to take it to the hole. They're going to take it in the paint, live in the paint. That's how we won those games against Bama and Kentucky. We took it to the paint. We made a few threes along the way, but that's what it's going to take to get Vanderbilt this Saturday. It's going to be tough up there. I've played there several times. It's a little weird deal the way they got the court. The team sits on the ends, and the media is down below, a step down, and the fans are right there. It's a little different deal. The goals are on the end, and it's kind of more air there behind you. It's a little different shooting issues, but everybody has to deal with the same issue. So if you're a Vanderbilt, you got to shoot, and if Ole Miss, you got to shoot. So I believe we'll do well, even if we don't win. Play a good game, come back, and we got Auburn, and surely we can come back and get Oklahoma, maybe Tennessee. It'd be hard down there at Florida, but like Meatloaf says, I'm hanging on the rock and roll today. Meatloaf says 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and that's what Kim Palm has us 21-10 and 10-8, what he got us predicted.
All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. When we come back, we will talk to Tim about that Vanderbilt game. I have some questions about Memorial Gymnasium. He mentioned the weirdness of it, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I feel like I never missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's go back to Tim Thomas. And Tim, Memorial Gym has to be one of the weirdest places that you played in all of college. And they changed the goals to where they used to have the weird side stanchion goals for their basketball goals. Now it is a normal looking goal, but you're still elevated. The benches are still on the end. You still don't have a scorer's table. What is it like playing in Memorial Gym?
It's a little different, but you just have to adjust. We played up Minnesota. It was similar. You walked up to get onto the court of Minnesota. You wasn't on the ends like a Vanderbilt. You had to walk up 2 or 3 steps and get up to the court, which is kind of different, especially if you went for a loose ball. You better be careful where you're going. But it's a cool place. We enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing there. I had some good games there. I know we beat them several times back in my day, and I feel like we'll give them a good game. They're good though. Coach Mark Byington has done a really good job there. Brought in all these portal players. Real quick, portal players. Rick Pitino, as I was watching his rant the other day, he mentioned he would no longer recruit freshmen. Wow. So he's going all transfer portal for all of his players from now on, Rick Pitino, and he's what is he in his 70s. So he's kind of figured out that I don't really want to mess with guys that I got to teach them, develop them, and go through a 4-year deal and mistakes and turnovers and this, that, and the other. So he's decided. I read that. I hope that's true, but I hope it's up to him what he wants to do. But I read the article that said he was no longer going to recruit freshmen. But it's a great place. It's close by. I figure we have a pretty good crowd there from Ole Miss. You definitely do. The shooting is different. There's no wall or back there, so it's just kind of open. You got fans back there. It's a little different, but it's not a big deal when you get out here. You get used to it. You just have to deal with it.
Is it loud? Because it looks like to me, what it looks like, it might not be the case, but it looks like it used to be like an auditorium that they repurposed.
Yeah, it was loud back then. They had some really good teams. They were really, I think they had a couple of guys, town and country back in the days. I had to come up with their names. I'm not sure, but they were really good back then. They had some really good teams. We usually beat them a couple of times during my 4-year at their place. We played well there for some reason, and we beat them at home about every time, I think. But it's a very good team this year. I've watched them a little bit. It's hard to say what's going to happen with what Beard has done this week. I think he'll do well. I think they'll buy into it. I think they'll realize that he's for them. He sets out the game plan, and they got to make it. He can't shoot the threes. He don't make these little short layups, and he don't sit there and say, "Hey guys, sit there and watch the rebound. Don't block out." A lot of that went on this past week, and it was tough to see, frustrate for me being defensive guys. But the intensity that we had back in the Alabama game just wasn't there. It was not there. They didn't play hard. The effort wasn't there. But I think, if we're going to go far, we got to get that intensity back. We need to do it for 40 minutes.
Okay. That's kind of cool that you bring that up. I have what I call a Rebel Hoops checklist with 3 things that absolutely has to happen for Ole Miss basketball to be successful, according to me. And I'm curious to see what it is like for you. So I think that Ole Miss needs to dominate the turnover battle. I mean, this can't be close. It needs to be a situation where Ole Miss wins this battle 4 or 5 turnovers to like 16 or 17. If Ole Miss does that.
Yeah, you're right. We've lost that since the Alabama game and then the Kentucky, we just lost the turnover battle. And that goes back to playing hard, the intensity, this no middle defense. We got to get that back. Remember at Louisville, it was so good, just the way they did it. But the last few games, and with this lack of effort and intensity, we've lost that.
And the second thing is do not get killed on the boards. And what I mean by that, if they only lose by 10 rebounds or less, the turnovers can tilt the game, but don't do like the Mississippi State thing where you lose by 15 or 16 rebounds.
Yeah, that definitely, like we've talked about before, if we can't rebound with them, and we hadn't all year really with anybody, there's a couple of games that's fairly close, but normally for whatever reason, we just don't rebound well. Hopefully next year he'll recruit better and get some guys. I said that last year, but some of these guys, for whatever reason, they like to be. It's not a spectator sport, man. You got to go get the ball. A lot of these guys just sit there and watch, and they let their guy run right by them and do a dunk back in. Hard to see, hard for me to witness, and gets me kind of frustrated. But we got to get more turnovers, like you said. The turnovers make up for the lack of rebounding.
Yes, and I think scoring-wise, I think Dre Davis and Matt Morrell are the key scorers. I mean, you're always going to have Juju. You're always going to have Padua. Malik Dia, that's a bonus. But Dre Davis, I think, is the kind of linchpin of this team. If he gets going, Ole Miss is difficult to stop.
Yeah, Dre, he's very important. Yeah, Morrell, if he can knock some threes in, that's very important too. My guy, just not to be different, just that Malik Dia seems to be the guy that when he gets in there and plays inside and hits those little short shots, and I don't mind him stepping out every once in a while for a 3. I don't think Beard minds him a whole lot, but I think he put it on him the other day. I saw him talk to him pretty up close and personal right in front of his face, and he kind of indicated with what I was reading was he said, you shoot another shot outside, we're going to take you out. And he did. He took him out like for 8 minutes. I watched it to see. He took him out for 8 minutes, and he just don't like to go inside. I don't know if it's the physicality of it but he's so good in that. If he's going to go pro and do any good at all, he's going to have to keep doing that. He can step outside every once in a while and shoot that shot, the flat-footed shot, but most of the time, if he's going to go anywhere and do anything good, I'm sure Beard's told him multiple times, he's going to have to get his attitude right.
Hey, I've seen him 2 or 3 times this year. When he gets his mind set that he's going to play bully ball, he can absolutely do it.
Yeah, it's Alabama game, was it 24-19? I think it was. That's not normal, and he could do that every game. I know it's hard, but he's just not very consistent, and I'm sure Beard wears him out about it, being consistent, being consistent. Dre, to a certain extent, when he's in foul trouble, he's pretty consistent. Morrell does his thing. His injury may be holding him back, but we need him to come on too and be a leader. I think Sean Badula said it best, and maybe he is the leader right now because he stepped up when they asked these questions in that press conference. He said complacency. That's where we're at. He said he made a true statement, man. Beard always saying, tell the truth. We're truth talkers. We say truth. We tell our players truth. And the coaches, really, when it all goes back down to it, the coaches have every loss, the head coach has got to be part of it. For some reason, they were not ready over the last few games. And I'm sure he's done everything he could to make it happen. But whatever's happened over the last few weeks, Beard and his staff didn't do a great job too. But I think this week, I believe they ramped it up, and I think things will go well at Vandy.
Yeah, we'll see exactly how that goes. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk to Tim about the future of this Ole Miss team, what the schedule looks like moving forward, the SEC tournament, the NCAA tournament, all of that stuff. So stick around for that. All right, we are back. Tim Thomas, former Ole Miss Rebel player, legend in my own heart. Tim, with this Vanderbilt game, I said in a podcast on Thursday morning about how this was a season-defining game, and that has nothing to do with it actually being Vanderbilt. It has to do with the schedule after Vanderbilt. Games at Auburn, at Gainesville, a home game against Tennessee. Very easily can see a proposition to where you go 2-3 in the SEC to close out the schedule. That makes this Vanderbilt game super important because you need that W. You need the Oklahoma W to end up at 10-8 and have that really good seed. So the first round, I'm not saying there's a mismatch in the team you're playing, but you have a little bit more separation.
Absolutely. This game is big. Yeah, it's right. We see what happened this past week. They got a few days off. They got their legs under them. They had a few chats, a few talks, a few up close and personal talks, and several significant event practices. We'll see how they respond. We'll see what these guys are made of. They're veterans. Most of them's 22, 23 years old, been around, fifth-year seniors like Morrell. We'll see how much they want it. They're putting their game on film too for the pros, so everything's put on film for them. So this is the time of the year. And that's why Beard made it clear. That's why he sent all 5 of them in there, the 5 starters. Hey, guys, it's time to show me what you're made out of. What's in your heart? Do you care? Is it effort? Is it all about the money? What is it, guys? We got a culture here. We talk about it. Let's go walk the walk, So we'll see what happens. I believe it'll go well, even if we don't beat Vanderbilt. Like we said, it's going to be tough at the old jungle the following week. But then we come back. We got Oklahoma at home. I feel good about that. They're not doing very well, but still we got to play well. I got a feeling we can beat Tennessee. I think we will at home. We could, with the crowds there and everybody's got their mindset back, their focus, laser focus, their effort is back, their intensity in the defense is back. The troublesome trip down to Gainesville may be tough regardless of how we're playing, but like I was saying earlier, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and that'll get us to 21-10, 10-8, and we'll be firmly into the NCAA tournament. Then we can go up to the SEC tournament and just play for good. Just say, hey, this is fun. Let's just do what we can, see how far we can go.
Yeah, I think 21-10. If that is exactly how Ole Miss goes, I think Ole Miss is a 7 seed, a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament, and I would be okay with that. You know, we've heard for 4 years make the NCAA tournament. If you go in and get a 6 seed, I mean, we're not talking about a Rob Evans going up against Temple where he was like a 9 in 1996 or whatever. I mean, it's a different animal. I think Ole Miss is kind of where they want to be.
Yeah, Beard. He's his mindset is to win every game, and that's not going to happen, especially with this team. But I could see it. I keep going back to Malik Dia. I hate to put it all on one guy, but all the other guys going to do their thing. Dre Davis going to do his thing. Morel's going to do his thing. Petula's going to do his thing. Juju and then Brakefield coming in, they're going to do their thing. Even Barnes, he comes in, does his part. I feel good about his play. He thinks he's an outside shooter, but he needs to just stay inside too. Some of these guys think they're 3-point shooters, and that's all they want. I went to a high school game yesterday, and then a lot of those same guys, you know, the big guys, they just kind of drift out to the 3. You know, that's the thing it is. That's what it is today. Hit the 3, you know, the crowd, you put up your fingers or whatever, call somebody like Broom does. I don't know who he's calling. Maybe he's calling his agent. I'm not sure who Broom calls, but he does it a lot. That means he makes some great plays. And it's going to be tough to beat them. It's going to be tough to beat Florida at their place. And it's going to be tough to beat Vandy this Saturday. Really, they're really good. I wasn't sure about it till the last few games. I got to see some of their highlights. They're very good. They play well together. We're pretty much the same size, same height. They don't have really big 7-foot guys, and they don't have really mean shot blockers or rebounders. So it's going to be an even keel game, and it's going to be. I'm looking forward to it and see how this week went at practice, and see if this significant emotional event came through good or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see on Saturday when that happens, and everybody, of course, will be watching the NCAA tournament, the SEC tournament. Speaking of which, SEC tournament, as it goes, you have to figure that Ole Miss might get a single bye and not a double bye. It's kind of where they are at the moment. What do you think? I guess it all depends on the matchups. Ole Miss doesn't want to be matched up with like super athletic rebounding juggernauts. I think they're a bad matchup for A&M and Mississippi State and those type of things. But if you get somebody like Vanderbilt, you have an advantage to – they're not going to be able to rebound the way those others are. And all of a sudden you lessen that disadvantage, add the defensive turnovers. If you can make it happen, you have a chance to win that game pretty quickly, pretty soundly.
You would think so. Some people put a lot of teeth into this tournament. Some people don't. You know, the baseball tournament, I've heard them talk about some of the top seed. They just want to go in and get out of there, you know. Just play one game, get out, and go home and rest, and get the arms rested, and get ready for the originals. I guess in baseball, it's hard to say. There's a lot of upsets in this tournament. In the past, even when I played back in the day, a lot of upsets. Some teams are just kind of there and waiting for the NCAA tournament. Some of them are not mentally focused. They're just kind of going through the motions and stuff. So it's according to how Beard, puts this out. I don't know how he has this team going. But we potentially can go several rounds even to win it. You got to really be really good. And you got to have a lot of depth. You got to have a lot of people on the bench to keep them in and out. And I think we do to a certain extent. It hadn't Platsky, for whatever reason, it just hadn't come through. He's what do you say? He's hit a wall or whatever.
Yeah, he's kind of hit that freshman wall. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bowl comes in and a few minutes here and there, and Beard was trying anything, sir. He was trying anybody, try to motivate the starter, trying to motivate Brakefield. He was putting everybody out, Cowherd and Bowl and the whole everybody he had, trying to motivate and try to get a spark from someone. And it's to say this SEC tournament, it's one of those things like in football. Do you really need to play that SEC championship game? Is it necessary? I know the money, that's what it's all about, right? But it's sometimes this tournament, it's some of the top seeds really don't really get too fired up. They're just looking forward to NCAA tournament.
Before I let you go and we get out of here, Jaemyn Brakefield, one of my favorite players on the basketball team. We talk about that all the time. I think Jaemyn Brakefield's been a little bit out of control the last 3 games. There's been some wild shots in the lane. He's kind of gotten in between situations. I think he just needs to slow down a little bit. If he kind of goes back to playing within himself, play defense and rebounding, as you say, and the offense will take care of itself. I think Brakefield, a little bit, he's doing the Gossamer thing from Looney Tunes. He wants it a little bit too much.
He's a big shot faker. I mean, he likes to pump fake, and I mean that's okay because he's not a great jumper. I mean, but sometimes he gets a lot of control. You're right. When he actually blocks out and rebounds, gets the ball and gets it out, and when he hustles to give it maximum effort, he does a good job. And the offense just kind of comes around. You say, "Oh, wow, how does that even happen?" But it just seems that way. The basketball gods, that's the way it seems. If you put forth a great effort on defense, you block your guy out, and you go get the ball and get the ball out, the team plays better. Everybody plays better. Rebounding has been a mystery to me all year. I'm not sure. I can't tell you why. I've looked. Only thing I got is effort, lack of effort, and the blocking out and going to the ball. A lot of times they'll tap it out, and that helps out. Whatever you got to do, we don't have to totally dominate the boards, but Jim, Lambeer, back at Bill Lambeer, I'm sorry, he used to really dominate the boards. And I mentioned Rodman before, just a small guy, but he saw where the ball was going. He could tell where it's going. He blocked this guy out, and he went to get the ball. We don't have any guys really like that. They just not that type of guys, but I wish they would do better, and I hope they do. But as we talked, the turnover margin, we got to increase our turnover margin. The defensive, the intensity has got to increase this week. It's got to get better for us to make a run in the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament. Our intensity on defense has got to increase, and we need to do it for a full 40 minutes.
Absolutely. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every single day. Tim Thomas, former Ole Miss Rebel basketball player and legend in my own mind. Tim, thank you very much for stopping by, and hopefully we get it turned around.
Yeah, I think so. I feel good about it. He's been doing this all these years, Beard has. He's got a great staff. And I think the kids, he says it all the time, they have a good heart. They got a great heart. They play with their heart. It's just sometimes you just kind of lose it. Your focus, and people say this, you read this, you get interviewed and all this, you kind of lose your intensity, everything. But if they'll play hard and get after it, I feel like we're going to have the end of this season go really well. We'll all be proud of them.
All right. Appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.